Hey guys, how many times have you felt like you're living life burning not just one, but both ends of the candle, thinking, I thought Christian living was supposed to be? Look, life's hard, especially as a Christian. You can't just invite God into your life and think every problem you've ever had is just gonna go away. So what do we do? How are we supposed to act? What's the correct response? Well, those are some of the things we talk about here at the Hope Seat. Taking real life issues, real life scenarios, and talking them out. Take this ride with us, and let's figure it out together.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Hope Seat. We are here, guys, the final episode of 2020 for the show. It's been an absolute pleasure bringing this information to everyone. It's been a pleasure just doing the show. Just looking forward to everything that we've got planned coming into the year of 2021. As most of you guys know, this was kind of a project that was put together, and really we've been piecing it together little by little, growing it up. As you guys could see around the room, I've done some redecorating here at my wife's behest. She was saying, it would look nice here, it would look nice there. Oh, this would look good too, So, a couple of different changes that we've got going on. But before we get any further into this, guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this video, and then some if you are finding the content informational, if you know people that would benefit from the information. And I would encourage you to share these videos just to bring awareness to this topic, as it is an interesting topic, a very heavy topic that we've been getting into over these last three episodes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and pull up that chair, put your favorite cushion on it, and let's talk about what's going on in the world today. I guess I should start off by saying that we just had our first big snowstorm in over 3 years here in the Northeast. And it brought almost 2 feet of snow, okay? I actually had to run the snowblower at midnight in order to get ahead of it. And by morning, I think there was still another foot on the ground of snow. And what was cool, though, we got to really go out there, and I really got to play with my 5-year-old in the snow for the first time. Because, like I said, it's been about 3 years since we've had some real snow up here. And so you got to take the good with the bad here in 2020 with regards to things that are going on, But let's go ahead and get into today's topic. Last episode, we talked about pornography. We talked about how it leads to promiscuity and the overall desire from the transitioning of the virtual to the physical realm in order to reach that level of satisfaction that you would get in these kinds of things. We also talked about how it impacts not just the individual, but all those people who are around that individual, all those people that are around you that you interact with on a daily basis. We talked about how it kind of sears the heart, sears the mind. It makes you look at women and in some cases even men more as sexual objects, and really reduces the value of the relationship that God intended for us to have between a man and a woman. All right. So we also covered a very, very difficult story, and that's the story of Elizabeth Martin and the fact about how pornography directly impacted her own life when she was abducted as a teenager. And that really transfers over into what it is that we want to talk about here today on the final part of the series. Talking about how the porn industry directly fuels the sex slave trade, or sex trafficking, and vice versa. Now, I just want to give a full disclaimer here. This particular episode is going to be probably one of the strongest ones that we've done thus far this year. There will be content that's difficult to hear. However, it is still the truth, so we don't want to shy away from a topic just because it's uncomfortable. I feel like there's things that we need to talk about that make us uncomfortable in order to bring light to some of the things that are going on out there in the world today. Because at the end of the day, we need to be realistic. The only way that we can come to solutions is if we are realistic with what's going on in the world. And it's the only way that we could bring help and healing to those who really need the help and really need the healing. So, um, going into that, I want to start off with this. In the news today, that there's a huge case building against an online porn site. It's been confirmed to be housing material related to rape, related to kidnapping, related to the sex slave trade as a whole. As of today, according to my most recent research on this particular case, there's already 40 women who filed a lawsuit against the company, stating that they knew or should have known that one of its commercial partners regularly used fraud and coercion to get women to appear in these videos. So the parent company of said porn site is the one that's getting the lawsuit, and for producing pornography that was, of underage women, non-consensual, and things of that nature. So, so much for being harmless, right? A lot of people say that pornography is just one of those things that are harmless. You're not hurting anybody, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And we're going to see just how far from the truth that is today. And it's always been my opinion, my personal opinion, my personal belief that porn has had deep roots in the trafficking business. Even when I was watching pornography, there would be times where I'd be sitting there and I'm looking at something. I'm like, man, there's just something not right about this. And but again, like I said, it was an addiction. And just like anyone else who's an addict, as we've discussed previously, subconsciously you've got these needs and these desires, and it just gets more intense the further along we get. Just with the addiction overall. And so I've really known that there was always something suspicious, something off about pornography. But man, after doing this research, it was mind blowing just how deeply connected these two things are. And during my research, I also came across an organization. I've never heard of them until I started researching this topic. But I have to tell you, they are absolutely fantastic, absolutely phenomenal. And again, full disclaimer here, it's not a religious organization. It's not a legislative organization. It's just legitimately just an awareness and education, awareness and education organization. And they're called Fight the New Drug. They've got a ton of great materials, articles. You could even buy their, swag, if you will. And they even got a three-part documentary that I started watching, and I've watched the first episode and a half. And guys, I gotta tell you, it is amazing. And they offer it for free. You can go to their website, and it really brings awareness to the issue of pornography in today's society. So I encourage you guys to check it out. We'll talk more about it at the end of the show. And it's absolutely amazing just how much information it is that they have available, just how much the impact of the information, or the impact of the situations that people find themselves in by no fault of their own, really, just due by their situation, due to the circumstances of the life that they live. And I used a lot of the information from this organization, and they have references and everything like that with regards to different cases, different situations that are out there. So, without further ado, well, I guess I shouldn't say without further ado, but when we come back from this first break, we're really going to get into the specific connections, guys, the real specific connections that we've been talking about, and how every time pornography is used, every time pornography is streamed, every time pornography is created, there's a long-lasting impact, a long-lasting ripple that is occurring that you may not know, that you may not see. But just because you don't know about it, just because you don't see it, doesn't mean that it's not happening. So we'll get into that when we come back. I'll be here. We'll talk soon. Hey guys, the Hope Seat wants to hear from you. We want to know what kind of things you are looking for hope in. What things are you going through in life? What would you like to talk about? Email us today at thehopeseat@gmail.com or reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at The Hope Seat, and we'll try to respond as soon as possible. We're looking forward to hearing from you soon. Take care. Now, back to the show. All right, welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Pastor Raphael here, and we are now entering the second half of the final episode here of the Hope Seat, as we get into the topic of sex trafficking and how it fuels the porn industry. Now, again, I want to give that disclaimer. This is the part of the show where we're really going to get into some real life example, real life cases of people who have gone through this in their own lives. And so it may be difficult to hear. However, it is the truth. And sometimes the truth does make you uncomfortable, but it's in that position of discomfort that we're able to bring light to the situation and bring change to people's lives in the future. Amen. So first things first, I want to be absolutely clear. Look, there's no simple way to explain this relationship. It's just way too complex to really explain it in a textbook, real academic way, if you will, paragraph A, paragraph B, whatever. But I'm going to do my best to give you examples of how it's something that tries its best to stay in the dark. But as the scriptures tell us, God always brings it to the light. Okay? So, first episode I want to talk about is an article that I read while I was prepping for the show. And it was about a film editing company. Okay? And that film editing company was tasked with editing pornographic films, already completed films. And they were tasked to kind of touch it up and just make it look, for lack of a better term, make it look good for production and distribution and things like that. But after a few months, they were asked to start editing the films with the raw footage that was taken, the raw footage that was available to them, and do it from start to finish because they didn't want to have to pay, two companies to work on the same product. And so one of the owners, they decided to handle the work themselves because it was a high-paying client, because they had said that they were actually going to pay them double to do this work. So there's a lot of money that they were dealing with. And so as the owners started actually looking into, or actually started doing the work, they started coming across a lot of footage immediately in the raw footage and paying attention to the things that were being said. And he started hearing things from the women that were in these films, screaming and saying things like, please stop, and I don't want to do this. And essentially, confirming the fact that the women that were involved in the film that he was editing at the time, this is day one, they were not in it consensually. And it took the owner all of one day. He gave all the footage back to the company, gave them back all the money, tore up the contract, and said, listen, I don't want anything to do with what you're doing. And what's the company's response? It is so evil. What is the company's response to this guy? They tell him it's okay, because there's plenty of other people and plenty of other companies out there willing to do the work. It's like they don't even care that this person realized that they're involved in some illicit, illegal activity. They're like, plenty of people that'll do the work for us. We don't need you to do it. We'll move on. That's so despicable, And in that scenario, you need to understand that when it comes to the whole sex trafficking thing, when it comes to this whole, you know, non-consensual filming of these young women, in some cases young men, you have to understand that these are young men and young women that are in vulnerable situations. Okay, they're lured out of a life that they're in, lured into a situation that looks better than where they were coming from. And then once they're there, the people who have lured them into the situation, they end up using things like blackmail or coercion to keep them in that situation. Like, oh, well, now we have you here. If you want to see your family again, you're going to do what it is that we tell you to do. Or, we know that you have debts, and we can pay those debts if you just do this, if you just do that. But what ends up happening is it's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle, and you get stuck in that cycle, and then you become this victim that has no idea, no way to get out of it, right? You have no way to get out of it. So, regardless of the method, regardless of how it is that they got into the situation, something that we always have to keep in mind is that they are still victims of these crimes, okay? And again, in my research, I found that in some scenarios, after the arrests took place and everything like that, there were some traffickers that actually admitted to enforcing quotas and offering performance incentives, they would call them. And in one study, they actually had a look at sex trafficking revenues in 8 U.S. cities between 2003 and 2007. That was the most data that I can find in regards to this particular topic. And it shows that 18% of the traffickers said that they would impose a dollar figure quota to their employees each day. Okay? And who are their employees? Their employees are victims. Okay? Their employees are victims. And what are the incentives? Do porn. And this was something that they would impose on a daily basis to these people that were stuck in this situation, right? There was another case where a company, they went out and they placed an ad for a modeling job. But then when the young women would show up, they were actually forced into performing pornography. It's like a bait and switch of the most despicable degree, And then there was another case I came across, and this is actually just recently, September 2020, and it's a Michael Terrell Williams, and he's actually facing charges right now for producing pornography with a minor and possession of pornographic materials and things like that of an 18-year-old woman. And but the thing is that when they actually investigated the case itself, they found that the stuff was uploaded 2 years prior to 2020. So she's 18 now. That would have made her 16 back then. So she was actually filmed when she was 16 years old by this guy who essentially raped her. And he uploaded it to a porn site. And it was viewed 2,447 times since it was uploaded. That's 2,447 times someone had to feed their flesh through someone else's pain. And that's crazy. That's absolutely insane. The last one, because after this case, I was just like, I can't even do this anymore. I can't keep looking into this. It's too despicable. It's too disgusting. It's too dark, and it was breaking my heart. It was breaking my heart to continue this as a youth pastor, as a human being. Just as a human being, I couldn't figure this out. And it's a story of, just like the last episode, we ended with the story of a young woman who, went through an absolutely traumatic experience. This is another situation, but this time talking about a young girl who was 14 years old when she was kidnapped. Okay? And she was kidnapped by men driving around her neighborhood, and they grabbed her, they abducted her, and then they proceeded to rape her multiple times. And as if that wasn't enough, she got brought to near death because they ended up stabbing her multiple times during the rapes. And somehow, some way, through reasoning with their attacker, she ends up escaping, and she ends up in the hospital. She ends up recovering in the hospital, and you would think that would be the worst part. At that point, that was the culmination of the worst part of the situation, the worst part of her scenario. But it wasn't. Because a few months later, that same well-known porn site that we've been talking about had not one, not two, but 6 different videos of her rape uploaded to it, and it ended up circulating around her school. People were sending her links to her own rape on a website under the guise of porn. 6 months she wrote to this company. 6 long months. Pleaded with the company. Begged the company. And it just continued to tell the company, you need to remove these videos. I was 14 when these videos were recorded. And not only was I 14, this is a video of my assault and my near death. And you know what the response to this from this company was? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No response to her emails, no response to her phone calls, no response to her writing, nothing. Until she came to a point where she had to resort to she was imitating a lawyer. She created a whole new email, a whole new profile, a whole new account, and sent the email to the company stating that if they don't cease and desist, that a lawsuit would be moving forward on behalf of this young girl. 48 hours later, videos were gone. 48 hours later. It took pretty much faking a lawsuit in order for them to actually act on removing a young girl's most traumatic experience in her life. But porn doesn't hurt anybody, right? Porn is something that takes place in the privacy of your own home. Porn is something that, I'm not hurting anybody. Well, I mean, does that sound like the case to you? Does it? Sure doesn't sound like the case to me. And you may be wondering why I use terms like a company or the company or a case, okay? The reason that I do that is because I don't want to even give them the time of day to speak their names. Because at the end of the day, these guys are criminals, okay? So I don't want to inadvertently advertise for them. I don't want to inadvertently have people going there to do whatever it is, if they're going through a struggle. I don't want to be that stumbling block, okay? And at the end of the day, these guys are criminals. Monsters who have stolen more than they can ever imagine from our population's most vulnerable people. And they make a profit off of it. Now, I'm not saying that it would be easy to overcome or that it would be easy to get through or go through this whole thing, okay? It's not. I mean, I can't even imagine it. But the fact of the matter is this. I know a place where people can find hope. I know a place where people can find healing. I know a place where people can find purpose again. And that is in Christ. And I pray, even those that are in the church, even those who are proclaiming themselves to be Christians, who are suffering from the addiction of pornography, would understand that your addiction to pornography is like any other addict. You need to understand that it's not just something that impacts you. It's just so much more to that. And the same way that we need to show compassion to the people who are suffering from the addiction of pornography, we need to show compassion to those who are suffering from the being placed in a position of producing and performing in this pornography. Pray for those young women, pray for those young men, because they're more than likely not doing it because it's something that they want to do, but something that they have to do, or something they've been forced to do. So we just, I guess what I'm trying to say, overall, need more compassion in this world, and understand that there's people who are suffering out there, and man, we need to go out there. We need to love more people, and we need to be more bold, and we need to call out the nonsense when we see it, and we need to be there for one another, because we're all going through some hard times, and we're all going through some trials and tribulations, but we don't have to go through it alone. Okay? So that's the end of our series here, and I really hope that it's brought some light to a dark topic in today's world. But really, I encourage you guys, if you really want to get more information on this topic of porn and promiscuity and the sex slave trade, I'm telling you, I'm really encouraging you guys to check out Fight the New Drug on Facebook, or you can go to their website, fightthenewdrug.org, and you can check out some stuff there. But between now and then, guys, I really hope that you have enjoyed this time with us here at the Hope Seat this year. And I pray that you have a very Merry Christmas as we get towards the celebration of Christ's birth. And I pray that you have a very safe and healthy new year. And I look forward to seeing you all again in January. But please feel free. You guys can still email us at thehopeseat@gmail.com. Reach me on Twitter. You can reach me on Facebook. However it is you want to reach me, feel free. And I would love to go over any topics that you would want to go over. And also, I would love to hear from you and see what it is that you guys have been going through, hear what your testimonies are, what God has been doing in your life, and maybe even, just pray for you as you go through whatever trial and tribulation you may be going through. So until then, God bless you guys. And please, please, please continue to love one another as Christ loved you. Amen.
Thank you so much for listening today to The Hope Seat. We pray that you are blessed and today's message brought just a little more hope into your life. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified every time a new episode is posted by clicking the subscribe button today. If you'd like to contact us here on The Hope Seat, feel free to email us at thehopeseat@gmail.com. If you would like to become a supporter of the show, simply click Support the Show on our Buzzsprout page, or visit us at ocgf.org and choose Hope Seat after clicking the Giving Made Easy banner on the right. Thanks again, and I can't wait to have a seat with you next time.